Hello and welcome to another English methodology workshop. I'm grateful to be with you once again. Today our topic is online resources for increasing word knowledge. My name is Heidi Healy and I am a virtual English language fellow. I was an English language fellow in China from 2017 to 2020. I have my master's degree in teaching English to speakers of other languages, and I've been teaching international students both in the United States and abroad for about 10 years now. And I'm grateful that we can gather together and talk more, learn more about vocabulary development and how we can help our students better develop their vocabulary. Today, our goals are to be able to list various aspects of word knowledge and to be able to list and use some resources. Today, I hope that I will teach you some tools to help you increase your own word knowledge and things that you can do to help your students increase their word knowledge. So let's get started. First, I want to look at a word together. The word is cool. What does it mean to know the word cool? Well, as with many words in English, cool can be a little bit complicated. It can have many meanings and many uses. So just a few. It's a little cool today. This use of cool is referring to the temperature, how hot or cold it is. It's a little cool today. Not warm, not cold, a little cool. That's cool. This means that's good or that's awesome. It's a common expression that we use or common response when someone tells us something that's happened or something that's going to happen. We say, oh, that's cool. We cool? This is another way that you might use cool in a sentence. This is very informal. You'll notice that the be verb has been dropped. This phrase is used informally in English to say, are we okay? Is there a problem between us? We use it often after an argument. When two people have been in an argument, again, informally, we might say, are we good or we cool? Meaning, do we still need to resolve our argument or are we good? Have we resolved our problem? Just cool it. We use this phrase to tell someone to calm down or to stop doing something. For example, if children were misbehaving, a parent or an adult might say, oh, just cool it, or cool it, meaning stop or calm down. Finally, we can just use the word by itself, cool. And that can mean good, that can mean okay, that can mean I agree. We can even use a rising intonation, cool, to ask if something is good or to ask if something is okay with somebody else. So many words in English can be very complicated. They might have different meanings in different contexts, but there's a lot that goes into knowing what a word means. So I want you to take a minute and think about this now. What does it mean to know a word? What are all the different things you need to know about a word to know how to use it in English? This is my list. I have meaning or definition, the written form, the spoken form or pronunciation, the grammar, the collocations, the register, the associations, and the frequency. My list might be different from yours. Maybe there are some things that you had on your list that aren't on mine, or maybe I have some things on my list that you didn't have on yours. But these are the basics of word knowledge. So let's talk a little bit more about each one. First of all, the meaning. The meaning is the definition of a word. And a word can have multiple meanings. There can also be multiple ways to find the meaning, such as we could use translation. This is really good for beginners or for new learners. Give them the translation in Mongolian or in their L1 so that they understand the word. Another option is to use a dictionary. You could also use pictures. I really like using pictures with young learners. I also like using pictures for nouns because I think pictures give us lots of information. And finally, for verbs, it can be really helpful to act out the verb and to have the students act them out. This helps students to build memory. So when we're looking for a meaning, how can we get a meaning? We talked about some of the ways that we can get a meaning. I want to share with you a couple of my favorite online dictionaries. So in the last several years, as I have been teaching English, this has become my go-to dictionary. I love it for finding definitions and information about words. So this is a learner's dictionary. It's by Merriam-Webster, one of the top dictionary companies in the United States. And the reason it's called a learner's dictionary is because it's written for people that are learning English. It's written for people that are not native speakers of English. So it gives you a little bit more information about words. It also is written with a controlled vocabulary, so they make sure that the definitions aren't too difficult. There's lots of other stuff in the Learner Dictionary. They have a word of the day and Ask the Editor, where they ask questions about spelling and grammar. But mainly today, I just want to focus on it as a dictionary. So let's look up a word. For example, the word book. Now, if I look up the word book, I have book as a noun and book as a verb. I also have some compound words like book club or blue book or coloring book or comic book. I get the definition. I have a pronunciation.
Book.
So that I can check my pronunciation. I have definitions and examples. Another thing I really like about the Learner Dictionary is it also gives me phrases such as phrasal verbs or idioms or just common phrases in English with more information. For example, the phrase by the book. By the book means to follow the official rules. For example, my boss insists on doing everything by the book. Another phrase we have here is hit the books, means to study or begin studying very intensely. I've got to hit the books all weekend if I'm going to pass this test. So I like that this dictionary doesn't just give us the definition and example sentences. It also gives phrasal verbs, idioms, phrases, some of those other things that can be helpful to learners of the language. Another dictionary I wanted to mention is dictionary.com. This is another dictionary site, and this dictionary is written for native speakers, so it doesn't have some of the features you find in the Learner Dictionary. It does have some other good features. One of the things I like about dictionary.com is that they have additional information about the English language, about words. They have things on idioms. They have things on new words. They also have additional dictionaries on slang or even on emojis, for example, so that you can gain more information about slang and other words that you might not find in a dictionary. The last dictionary I wanted to show you is an online visual dictionary. As I said earlier, I really like using pictures, and you can find these on Google or other search engines. I have a printed picture dictionary that I really like, But this is an online visual dictionary or picture dictionary. So there's lots of themes over here that you can see. Here I have a picture of a soccer player and some vocabulary associated with the soccer player. So I have shin guard, soccer ball, sock, shorts, team shirt, goalkeeper's gloves, soccer shoe, interchangeable studs. So I have the main parts of the uniform and equipment of a soccer player. So a visual dictionary can be a helpful resource. I'd like you to take a few minutes now, choose one of these dictionaries and look at it for a few minutes. Look up a word or two, see what kind of information you can find, and think about how this might be helpful for your students. So again, the three sites are learnersdictionary.com. Make sure you get an S in learners. Dictionary.com and visualdictionaryonline.com. Take a few minutes and explore these dictionaries. The next part of word knowledge is being aware of the written form. The written form is the letters that make the word. It's important that students understand the written form of English so they can identify words that are written on the computer and words that are handwritten. It's helpful to have students memorize the spelling of many words, especially what we are known as sight words in English. So words like the, have, I, those really frequent words we want to memorize the spelling of. It's also helpful to teach basic sound letter correspondence, so knowing which letters make which sounds, and teaching basic phonics. There are a few rules about how different sounds are made based on their spelling, and this can help students with spelling. One example of this would be the K and C rule. In English, the sound K can be made by a K or at times by a C. So how do I know which one to use? Well, this little pattern helps me know. K takes I and E. So if my vowel is an I or my vowel is an E, my word generally will start with a K for the K sound. Some examples are kite, kettle, kiss, kids, and keep. The other three vowels, A, O, and U, will have the letter C at the beginning. In the examples, cat, cut, candy, cool, and come. This rule holds for any English words. However, there are a few words that have been adopted or borrowed into English from other languages. These words might break the rule. A couple of common ones include koala, an animal from Australia, and kayak, a type of boat. Our next form is the spoken form. What is the spoken form of English? In other words, what does the word sound like? In English, there are a couple of things we want to be aware of. We need to teach students the sound of the word. We also need to make sure that we are teaching the students proper stress. Which syllable is stressed? In English, stress is very important. It helps us know what to listen for. And sometimes it can be the difference between a noun and a verb, or even two words that sound very similar. An example of this occurs in some nouns and verbs in English where the only difference is the stress. For example, we have record and record. Record, I keep a record of all my purchases, is the noun. And record, I record the amount each time I spend money, is the verb. If I say the wrong stress in the wrong place, it makes my sentence not make sense. I keep a record of all my purchases. That sounds strange. It may even cause confusion for listeners. Another example of this is the word desert, as in a place where many things do not grow, and desert, meaning to leave. For example, Utah is a desert. The students desert campus as soon as they finish their finals. The main difference in pronunciation here is stress. So it's important that we're teaching students proper stress. Another thing that can make English challenging is reductions and linking. If a vowel is not stressed, it is often reversed to the schwa or vowel. Also, we tend to link our words together to keep our speaking smooth. When native speakers of English are speaking quickly, the language can sound very different from what it sounds or how it is written. For example, do you want to go to lunch? This might be what we have students practice saying, or even what they might hear in our classrooms. But a native speaker saying this will say, do you want to go to lunch? Do you want to go to lunch? Really, the only word here that is stressed is lunch. Everything else is reduced and linked together. So it sounds very different. I think it's important that we help students understand the different ways that English sounds when it is spoken to help them with their comprehension and listening. Let me share with you a couple of my favorite sites for teaching pronunciation. One of my favorite websites for teaching pronunciation is Rachel's English. This website is more advanced. It's probably better used for high school or university students. I wouldn't use this website most of the time or the videos for primary level students. For primary level students, a really good way to help them with pronunciation is just find some simple songs or activities. Rachel's site has lots of videos. She has videos on all the sounds of English. She has videos on rhythm, intonation, linking, stress. She has videos on fluency and how to better understand how Americans talk. She has lots of videos. Recently, she's also been doing some culture videos about the culture of the United States. So one of my favorite activities that she does is a Ben Franklin activity. So if I just type Ben Franklin into the search bar here, recently she's done a bunch based on movies or music. These are all pronunciation exercises. In these pronunciation exercises, Rachel takes a short text and then analyzes it for all the different pronunciation features. What a word sounds like, where she's linking, where she's stressing, etc. I'm going to play just a few minutes of this video so you can get a little bit of an idea of this kind of exercise.
In this American English pronunciation video, we're going to study American English by looking at a short text. Topic, where I live. I call this a Ben Franklin exercise. This is when you take very good notes, very detailed notes on what you're hearing, and then go back and try to record yourself based on what you've written down, the notes. Did you write down a flap T or the way two words link together? After you've recorded yourself, compare it to the original. Did you do everything that you wanted to do? In this video, we're going to take notes together. I live in New York City, in Manhattan, currently in Midtown, but I do move around a lot. I've been in New York for about 5 years and I've already moved 4 times. One of the first things I notice is how my voice goes up at the end of the word city. City, city. That's because of the comma here, and I'm not done. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to say more about that. I live in New York City. I live in New York City. I also notice how connected that first line is. I live in New York City. There are no breaks. I live in New York City. I live in New York City. And I notice the ending consonant sound of live links into the beginning of the next word. Live in, vin, live in. I live in New York City. I live in New York City. I live in New York City, in Manhattan. In Manhattan.
Okay, we're gonna pause the video there. You can get a little bit of an idea of how she's analyzing the speech and pointing out things like links. She also points out reductions to better understand pronunciation of American English. Another resource I use for pronunciation is YouTube, and Rachel's also on YouTube, so you can find her videos. Another good resource for teaching pronunciation and the sounds of words is the Pronunciation Doctor. Marcia Chan is an expert in teaching pronunciation and has studied pronunciation and teaching it. She has several videos on YouTube. Two of my favorites, let me scroll down to them, are these two right here. The pronunciation is a physical act and open, shut them. So one of the things that Marcia talks a lot about is the need for students to open their mouths, move their teeth and their tongues and their lips in new and different ways. And she talks about the importance of getting students ready to speak by helping them to warm up their mouths to move in new ways to make the sounds of English. The last resource for pronunciation is Youglish. Youglish, if you're not familiar with it, is a site that will search through YouTube and find videos with a specific word. So you can listen to different pronunciations of that specific word. So for example, the word can't. Also notice here, I can narrow this to a US accent, a UK accent, or an Australian accent. So let's look up can't. I'm going to pause the video for just a second to explain some of the details of the player. You have the video here. It will start in the middle of the YouTube video right before the word that you've searched for comes up. So you can see that we're going to hear the word can't. You can't really do. This button here is the next button. So this button will go to the next video that has the word can't in it. So let's listen to a couple examples of can't.
The political and media system, that there are things you can't really do?
Well, distinct flavor, and you can't really evoke it in sound or in any other format by sort of looking back or trying to be imitative.
What's important about this card, and I really am
You
glad
can't take
Eric,
that.
you have it.
That's mine.
I always like to at least feel these things.
Okay, so there you can see a couple examples of how people say the word can't in English. So again, I'd like you to take a few minutes and explore one or a couple of these sites on your own. So again, the 3 sites, we have rachelsenglish.com. On YouTube, you can just search for the Pronunciation Doctor for Marcia Chan. Try listening to the Open Shut Them video. Or go to Youglish, youglish.com, and search a couple of words that you're interested in the pronunciation. Take a few minutes and explore these sites. As you explore, think about how this might be useful to you or your students. Our next aspect of knowing what a word is, or knowing how to use a word in English, requires us to know the grammar of the word. And there are many different things we want to take into account. One, for example, if I'm teaching my students verbs, might be, does this verb have an irregular past tense form? If it is irregular, I would want to make sure and teach my students the past tense form when I teach the word. Same with any plurals that might be irregular. For example, the plural of mouse is mice. So I would want to teach that to my students when the word comes up. I might also be thinking about ing or ed adjectives, or specific phrases that something is commonly used in. For example, if we're discussing recreational activities and I'm teaching my students verbs like hike, swim, ski, I might also teach them the grammar of the phrase, I want to go, because this is often used with these recreational activities. I want to go hiking. I want to go swimming. I want to go skiing. So thinking about a common pattern or phrase of grammar where we might use this can also be helpful. Collocations, or being aware of collocations, is the next aspect of word knowledge I want to talk about. Collocations are words that commonly appear near each other. I like to refer to them as word friends. They like to hang out. Sometimes they're right next to each other. Sometimes they're not right next to each other, but they're words that we know commonly occur together. These can be nouns, adjectives, adverbs, verbs, and prepositions. I really like talking to my students about prepositions and how they work as collocates or word friends, because prepositions can be very challenging for students. They don't know which one to use. And really, there are no rules. Native speakers learn this by listening to other native speakers. So teaching these as patterns, teaching them as word friends, can be really helpful for students. So how do you know what prepositions are word friends with what other words? There are many lists online, so you can look there, but I'll share with you another way in just a minute. Let's start with a little quiz though. So can you complete these phrases with the correct preposition? Here's the answers. How did you do? We have concentrate on, agree with someone, angry with someone, afraid of, and curious about. How did you do? So we can teach our students that concentrate and on are word friends. If there's something that comes after concentrate, and I'm thinking about studying, what's often going to be connected with the preposition on. I concentrate on my homework. I concentrate on the assignment. I concentrate on the teacher. It's always going to be the preposition on. And we can just have students memorize these. Now, besides the lists, how else can I know what these collocations are? Well, this is another reason why I love that learner dictionary that I showed you. Let's go back to it. So if I go back to the learner dictionary, let's look up the word concentrate. I have concentrate as a verb. And if I scroll down here, you'll notice that here I have often plus on, meaning often the word concentrate occurs with the word on. And then it gives me several sentences. You'll notice the two sentences before without on just end with the word concentrate. All that noise makes it hard to concentrate. Here though, we've added the preposition. All that noise makes it hard to concentrate on the book I'm trying to read. Here we can see concentrate on And we can teach this to our students as a group. Let's look up another word. How about agree? So here, again, with agree, we see often with. I agree with you. Let's look up one more word. Let's look up focus. Focus, we want the verb. And here we get focus on, to cause to be directed at something specific, plus on. Often plus on. So we know, just like concentrate, focus is often a partner with the word on, with the preposition on. This can be one helpful way of finding collocations. Our next aspect of word knowledge I'd like to talk about is register. Register simply means is something formal or informal. This is important in English because I communicate different ways depending on who I'm communicating with. And I want to think about, do I need formal communication? Am I talking to my boss or my teacher? Or am I writing a paper for class? Then I'm going to want to use formal language. If I'm talking to my friends, though, I may want to use more informal language. For example, hit the books is the informal way of saying study. I probably wouldn't use hit the books in an essay, but I would definitely use hit the books with my friends. Same here, hit the sack is an informal way of saying sleep. So here, hit the sack means sleep. And again, the Learner Dictionary can help us with this. Do you remember when we looked up the word book? And we scrolled down here. And right here, hit the books is informal. In my book, an informal way of saying, in my opinion. Here, we also have a note that to bring someone to book is chiefly British and it's more formal. So that's another way that a Learner Dictionary can help us, is it can help us determine the register, if something is more formal or more informal. Register is also important when we're teaching students about the vocabulary of things like saying thank you. So if we're writing a thank you note, formally, we may write something like this. Dear Professor Smith, I appreciate your help with my research this past semester. So a formal way of saying thank you might be to say, appreciate your help. However, in an informal conversation, we're generally just going to say thanks. Keep it very simple and short. In this informal conversation, saying I appreciate it would be a little too formal. We're talking with friends here, so we want to be informal. So thanks is more appropriate. Similarly, when we're accepting things, if someone says thank you, how do we respond? Formally, we might say something like, you're welcome. I'm glad I could help. But most Americans don't say you're welcome to our friends. We say things like, no problem, or no worries, or happy to do it. There's actually a video from Rachel's English on different ways to say you're welcome that can be really helpful. So think about, what is the register of the language you're teaching? Is this formal language or informal language. Language to use with your boss, or language to use at school, or language to use with your friends. Another aspect of word knowledge that we need to consider is associations and also connotations. So what is associated with this word? Or also, how does this word make you feel? For example, we have the words slim, slender, skinny, and thin. What are the connotations of these words? They all mean basically the same thing, not fat, but there are different connotations with these words. Skinny has a slightly negative connotation in English. It's association of being sick, but so sick that it's almost like you're sick. It's not a good being thin. It's being thin in a more of a bad way. Where slim and slender are being thin in a good way. So if I wanted to give someone a compliment, I would probably use slender or slim more than I would use skinny. One way you can learn more about these kinds of words is to go to a thesaurus. And this can also help you find words that have similar meanings in English. So dictionary.com also has thesaurus.com. And a thesaurus is a way of looking up synonyms and antonyms. So I can go here and I can type in the word skinny. And I notice some different words that come up as synonyms for skinny. So I have slender, scrawny, bony, gaunt, lanky. So I might look up what some of these synonyms are. So let's look at scrawny. Scrawny means unhealthily thin. If we look up bony, another synonym, of or like bone. So here, this can give us a better understanding of the word. So let's go back to skinny. We can look up slender. Slender we see means thin. And we now get words like slim or lithe or delicate. So slender has more of a positive connotation. I'm getting a few different kinds of synonyms, and looking at the synonyms can also sometimes help me pick maybe a more appropriate word. One of the best ways to find out more about connotations and associations is, number one, by paying attention to how the word is used, and number two, talking to native speakers, asking them about the word and how it's used. Another association or connotation might be words like these: apartment, house, and home. Home has much more of a feeling of love, of being a place where you spend time, where house and apartment have a little bit of a colder feeling. It's more talking about the building where you live rather than the situation or the emotions of the place where you live. Finally, the last thing we might want to consider is frequency. Things like how often is the word used in spoken English, in written English, by younger people. Frequency can be difficult to determine, but it can be something that I pay attention to, especially in reading or listening. If there's a word that I'm hearing a lot that I think my students might not know, then it's a good idea to bring this word out and make sure that my students understand that word. Another thing that can help is looking every year. Dictionaries select a word of the year They will generally also add several words to the dictionary. And these are usually good ideas of new words that are becoming popular. Past words, we've included words like glamping or hangry. And some of these words have become very much part of the English language. So we've talked a little bit about how to use dictionaries and videos to learn more about words, but I wanted to end by sharing a resource for you to help students learn words. This site is called Quizlet, and Quizlet is a vocabulary flashcard site. The site is free to sign up on, and you can create your own flashcard sets. For a fee, you can have a teacher's account, but I don't think a teacher's account is really necessary. I've used Quizlet for several years just on the free account, and it's worked great for me and my students. Let me share with you a little bit about Quizlet. So again, Quizlet is a flashcard study site. You can set up your own lists and even make classes of your students, all in the free account. If you want to make a flashcard set, you simply click up here on Create, and then you can click on Set. You then can create a set of flashcards, write in the title and a description, and then here you enter in the words. You can enter in a term and a definition. Here you can choose a language. So for example, I can put my language in English, but you could also change it to another language. For example, you could put the word in Mongolian. Finally, you can add an image. For example, if I put the word book, if I click here and I put it on English, then I can write in my English definition. Or like I said, I could put in an L1 language. I could put in another language like Mongolian or whatever language I wanted to use. Finally, I can add an image. I can either upload my own image or choose an image from the site for a picture of a book. So I can make flashcards for my students. Let me show you a couple of examples of some flashcards that I've created. So here's a list I created for one of my groups of students. I have the word ancient. If I click on the card, it will flip over and you can see I've put a picture as well as a definition. Again, I can click to see the other side. Next word, come up with, to get or think of something that is needed or wanted. Keep track of, to continue, to be informed or know about someone or something. Connect, to think of something or someone as being related to or involved with another person, thing, event, or idea. So students can use this. There's several different ways that they can also study these flashcards. Through flashcards, learning, the computer program will take them through writing the words, listening and spelling the words. So there's several different ways here that they can learn the different words. For one of my groups of students, I created a list of irregular verbs. So for example, the past tense of blow is blew. The past tense of draw is drew. So one thing I can do is I can play a game. I can either play match or I can play gravity. So let me show you gravity first. I'm going to click on Get Started. I want to study all the words in the deck, and the answer is going to be the definition. Now remember, for this set, the definition is the past tense of the verb. If I was using vocabulary words with definitions, I might answer with the term. That way the definition would show on the screen and the students would need to type the word. I can make it easier or harder depending on the needs of my students. For this example, I'm just going to leave it at medium. And then I click Let's Go. Hit Start Game. Now I'm going to see a word come onto my screen. The word is blow, and I'm going to write the past tense in the box. This allows me to practice vocabulary, but I can specialize this to the specific words that I want my students to know. If I miss a word, then I get to try again. It doesn't disappear. Once I get it right, the little rock disappears. If I get it wrong and I don't get it in time, then my score goes down. I get a prompt, the prompt is filled, the correct answer is felt, and then I will type in the correct answer before I continue with my game. Let's look at another set I made to show you the other game. I made this set of flashcards with collocations. So I have concentrate on, so I'm making flashcards to match between the word and the collocation. Concentrate on, contribute to, agree with, believe in, worried about, fight against, and shocked by. Let's play match. Hit Start Game, and then I'm just going to match the word with the correct preposition. So concentrate on, agree with, tired of, fight against, believe in, shocked by. Here it tells me how long it took me to play. If I have students log into this set of words, which I can share with them via a link, then my students can play and it will record whoever got the best time. So they can try to get better and beat their classmates. That's a little competition, but it's something that they can do outside of class. So there's lots of different things that you can do. I would also love to show you Quizlet Live. This is an interactive game that you can play. I'm going to be hosting a Facebook Live this Thursday, and I'm going to try to do the Quizlet Live game during the Facebook Live presentation. So I hope I'll see some of you there. So here's a couple different links to some of my vocabulary sets. If you can just go ahead and link to them and look at my sets and play with them. You're also welcome to make an account. Again, it's free, and create some of your own flashcard sets. So I hope that as we've talked about some of the different ways to increase our word knowledge, and you've looked at some of these websites today, You've found some ways to increase your own word knowledge and help your students. Vocabulary is important. It's important in reading and writing and listening and speaking. It's maybe one of those most important things because we have to have a good vocabulary to do all the other things. So helping our students know words well, know all the different aspects of words is really important in our job as educators. I just wanted to end by quickly reminding you about our Facebook page. I've loved seeing some of your posts about the workshops. Continue to ask me questions and share examples. This next week, on Thursday, we're going to do a Facebook Live. So I will be live on Facebook Thursday, December 3rd for about a half an hour each time. The first time I'll be on will be at noon, and the second time I will be on will be at 9 p.m. I understand these times don't work for everyone, but I've had to figure out the times that will work for me in the US. So I hope to see some of you at the Facebook live event. I'll look forward to answering your questions about vocabulary or any other topic you might have questions about. As always, thank you so much for coming today. I hope that we have added to your toolbox and that you have some new ideas about how to learn more about words and how to teach your students more about words.